Sailing for days in the open sea, hunting the blood of my enemies, searching for gold with Gilmekki, we're the pirates of the coast.
Hey there, this is Rich, and you are watching Bsawr, Black Sails, Apocalypse World, and Running. And this is kind of a fan show about Black Sails through the lens of an amazing RPG called Apocalypse World. How are you doing, Josh, my co-host?
I'm doing well. I have just watched Black Sails, and we are continuing our Night Witches game, which is Apocalypse World, and I ran today, so I think I kind of ticked off all the boxes.
All the boxes are ticked. How do you like Night Witches?
It's good. It's interesting, and I think our most recent session was the most Night Witchy session. Like we did all the things, and we're like, oh yeah, these are the stories that people tell about Night Witches. So we may just have gotten to the point where we're all the cylinders are going in sequence.
How many sessions did it take to get there?
We are on our fourth or fifth, but we've also got a kind of a weird setup. We've only got 3 players, and one of which is the rotating GM, which means things work a little differently and a little weirdly. So I think we just, if it's an odd set, blah blah blah. If it's an odd number of sessions to get to the good stuff, it's because we have a small crew.
You pretty much violated the warranty, is what you're saying.
Oh yes, definitely.
So 2 players, 1 rotating MC is what you said?
Mm-hmm.
I'll remember not to do that unless I want to take 5 sessions to get there, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, cool. All right. Awesome. Let us go. So this is what we're going to do is we're going to talk about episode 4 of the first season of Black Sails, as if all of the people who wrote the show were playing a game of Apocalypse World. So as a quick rundown, not all of the major, what you might call major characters of the show, we consider PCs, specifically Vane, Charles Vane, who is pretty studly pirate guy. He is a threat. But most of the other major players that you see in the episodes are PCs. And if you want to know who's who, feel free to jump back to our first episode. But we'll probably explain some of that as we talk it through. So let's lead off with what happened. Josh, what happened in this episode 4?
Okay, so here's the thing about this episode. There's a lot of pipe laying in this episode. There's a lot of setup, and it's kind of a weak episode because not a lot happens, but there's a lot of exposition. So the kind of conceit of the episode is the Walrus, their ship, is having its hull scraped, which entails them literally dragging the ship up onto the beach and tipping it over and lashing it to palm trees while they scrape the hull and get it nice and smooth and fast. Somebody thought that would be a cool conceit frame for the episode. They were wrong. We'll move on. But while that happens, while the ship gets scraped down, a number of the principals are trying to make things happen. So we have Rackham trying to find a place for his crew, which has just lost its ship and its ties to Eleanor's fence. Eleanor is trying to get guns for the assault on the Urca de Lima. Silver is trying to curry favor with Flint and get into his good graces. And Max is willingly/unwillingly captive of the Ranger crew, and she is trying to earn some influence with them and come out on top, basically, because she's the Skinner. Unfortunately, none of those characters succeed in what they are trying to do. They don't progress anything, and when they fail, they don't make the situation worse. So I honestly think the best thing we could do as far as Apocalypse World lessons out of this this episode, is to highlight the things that went wrong and things not to do. So, first of all, no swish. There's like if you fail a roll, something bad happens and the situation changes. You've got to do that. Otherwise, you get an episode like this where nothing happens and everybody kind of wanders around. And also, so like as I started watching the episode, I'm like, okay, so they're scraping the hull, and what would that be in the apocalypse world thing? Is this some sort of move thing that they're doing to optimize their gear or something like this? And the short answer is no. And this is something that if the players turned to their MC and said, okay, we totally want to pull the ship up onto the beach, tip it over on its side, and scrape the hull, and then tip it over the other way and scrape the hull. It's a huge undertaking and very, very dangerous. That sounds like something the MC should be, yeah, we totally do that. But no, the MC should have said, okay, you do that, now what? This whole episode should have been skipped, basically, if it was an Apocalypse World game. As far as the show goes, there's some exposition happening. It serves some other purposes. But as far as Apocalypse World goes, there were errors made on the MC's part in this episode.
Yeah, I think I get you. I really feel like maybe this was all stuff that was in a love letter, and
Yes.
there was a roll at the end, and for somebody decided to stretch that out, and it didn't work.
Yes, this was the play-by-post episode that they did because like 2 of the players were in Germany or something.
It's harsh to play by post, man. Come on.
But
no,
yeah,
that's good. I like that. A couple players couldn't make it, so we kind of love lettered it up because there was not a whole lot that we saw of Anne Bonny, or when there was a bit with Rackham and some setup for Anne Bonny, but yeah.
yeah, it's kind of thin. But there are some good scenes. So what's your favorite scene out of this one?
Well, my favorite scene was so Max, as you talked about in the recap, Max had kind of given herself over to the Ranger crew because she's stolen from them, and so she is the sex toy for what's left of the Ranger crew after Eleanor broke them and broke Vane, and so the whoremaster, the pimp who worked for Max, comes around to Jack Rackham and is like, "Hey, you've got my prize whore, and what's going on with that? Because every day she's gone, I'm losing money." And so Anne Bonny, our faceless, tries to intimidate. Basically, she goes aggro on the whoremaster. And I'm seeing that as she failed. So she says, "Hey, you want to take him back? You want to take Max back? Why don't you take her back if you got the balls?" And then the whoremaster just laughs and says, "Every day I see less and less people outside of that tent. Pretty soon, maybe I will." So that kind of sets up a little bit of a threat. And then what was interesting to me was after he left, this is the moment where Rackham kind of realizes something's going on with Anne Bonny. And I think he does a read person on her. And he says, "Hey, you got a problem with what's going on with Max?" She doesn't answer directly. And he says, "She is one of the only things that's keeping this crew together because our captain is jacked up. We got no ship. We can't work. And I'm just trying to hold everything together until we get things going. She's an asset. We've got to, do you have a problem with that?" And Anne Bonny is just like, "Fuck you," and walks away. And that was not a whole lot happened, but that was, to me, a really interesting scene because it felt like 2 PCs going at each other. They didn't come to blows because they're still allies, and there's definitely a setup for a conflict that lasted over several episodes, most of the first season, actually. So that was a scene I liked a lot. What about you?
My favorite scene out of this is it's kind of like an incidental role playing scene. It's got Eleanor and Flint, and Eleanor comes by to talk to Flint because Eleanor, who's the heart holder, is kind of worried that one of her underlings, employees / technically slave, but it's an interesting relationship. But she's worried about his opinion about what she just did in some maneuvering to get what she wants. And she's worried that he's upset with her because this is the thing that Eleanor, as the heart holder, is leper. And so it's just like, and he explains, people will say that you're doing things wrong or whatever, but if we pull this off, they will be proven wrong. And it's, to Flint, that's all there is to it. And it's a really nice bit of characterization for both of them. They play the foil for each other and show their different takes on leadership, and it's just a cute scene.
Yeah, and I love that they play the foil for each other, but they're not rivals. They're actually on the same team, which is kind of cool too.
Yes.
All right. So any other PC moves that we saw? Do you want to talk about John Silver and the pig?
I believe that was actually your item.
Oh, well, I guess I will talk about it then. So John Silver's trying to pass himself off as a cook. That's how he kept from being killed at the very first episode. He is not a cook. He is our battle babe. So he gets out of things. So it's about just the grace of being cool and lucky. So there's a sailor who comes up to him. So they're on the beach. They're doing this big, boring, tilt the ship over thing. And he's supposed to cook a pig on a spit. He's done a horrible job. And a sailor comes up to him and says, "Hey, listen, I've got diarrhea, dude. It's your fault." And John Silver's like, "What? No, this pig's great. I don't know what you're talking about." And he's trying to manipulate the guy to back off. He's trying to get away. Maybe he's acting under. I think if he were acting under pressure, he'd be a battle. He'd probably he'd make that roll. But his hots, maybe not so good. He blew it. He blew the roll. It was pretty obvious, but it was close. And then Captain Flint kind of slides in and he says, "Listen, sailor, go back to work. It's all good." And then he reaches down and takes a hunk of the pig and eats it and says, "This is just fine." And so the sailor takes off and he spits it all out. And he's like, "You go get another pig. This is a piece of shit." And I think that was like, the captain steps in. Chopper's like, "I can't let this guy get killed because that's what's going to happen." So he rolls this, and he's got a 7 and 9. And the MC is like, "Well, you've got to prove to this sailor that this is good pig." Until he had to eat the pig. That was the mixed result. It was more of a gross out move than anything mechanical. But yeah, that was pretty great.
It's a cute little moment. Yeah, for me. So as I said, there's tons of exposition, which in Apocalypse World translates a lot of times to announce future badness. This is like a whole episode of announce future badness, announce future badness, announce future badness. So at one point, Silver is trying to get in with Flint and convince Flint to trust him. And it's another manipulation. And he uses as his leverage the announce future badness that's been happening, which I thought was kind of, clever from a mythical player point. He's like, "Oh yeah, I keep being told all these terrible things are happening. I'm going to use that and exploit that for my own benefit." And he rolls to get Flint to trust him. And the thing about manipulate when it's PC versus PC, you can, if you succeed, you can offer them an experience point if they go along with you. Which, honestly, as long as it's trivial, everybody will just take. They'll say, "Yes, thank you for the experience point. I will make a minor adjustment to what I am doing in order to accommodate you." So in order to get the really good PvP manipulates, you have to go big. So Silver's like, "No, you have no reason to trust me. I want you to trust me. That's what I want out of this. And it's worth an XP for you." Huh? And Flint turns him down. Flint does not take the XP and does not trust Silver, which is a good decision on his part. But you could see that it's so close. It's like, oh, we're both PCs, and maybe we should play together and cooperate. But no, I don't trust you. I'm not going to take that XP. And it's nice. It's a nice, finely cut decision that Flint's character or Flint's player needs to make a hard decision on. So I liked it.
Yeah, I did too. That was a good call out. So did we see any MC moves, hard moves? I don't know. I mean, the boat tipping over, but we saw it a mile away. Randall,
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, as I said, there's a lot of announced future badness, and at least 10 of them is the ship is going to fall over on top of a pirate. It's a over and over. First, the experts like, oh, this is not the right place to do it. The beach is too steep, and then they do it anyway. And then Billy's trying to get the guys to cooperate, but they go to the fuck tent instead. Oh, we didn't talk about the fuck tent.
Kind of a big part of the beginning
Right.
of it.
And then it shows the rope straining, and then it shows the rope straining, and it shows the rope straining. And it's just like, okay, already we know the boat is going to tip over on somebody. And you announce future badness once, right? Either it's you announce it, and if there's another fail related to it, it happens. You don't delay and delay and delay and delay because it gets tedious.
Yeah, and it was the same warning. It didn't ratchet up tension per se. I mean, yes, there's one where there's a string of the rope. Second time, you saw a tree move a little. It was just too incremental. It's not hard. Like, these are not hard moves. This was not a good game of Apocalypse World. Maybe there was a guest MC. I don't know.
Yeah. That might account for all the NPC scenes that the normal MC was playing Gage or Billy Bones or something.
That's it. We just figured out there was a Call of Cthulhu GM who came in. He wanted to try out Apocalypse World with this established group.
Yeah.
And the only thing he set up that I kind of liked was that when Vane ends up, so this is kind of a hard move, maybe hard move opportunity, present an opportunity cost. Is so Vane is going through a weird vision quest, super drunk guy, lost everything kind of thing, and the horror master catches him in the streets by himself, and he and two other guys beat the crap out of him. One of them pulls a pistol on him, just put him out of his misery, pulls the trigger, and something was wrong with the pistol. It fizzes out. The gunpowder didn't work, and then the guy's like, oh, and then that's when Vane just breaks out and kills all three guys, including the horror master. And so now it's in Rackham's lap. That's an opportunity. So, and it was cool too that, like, I imagine the MC at that moment portraying the horror master saying, we can be partners. I'll give you half, which plants that seed of like, hey, wait, I'll just take it all. Stab. Like, that was not a player character. It's just NPC to NPC. So not the awesomest hard move, but I like stuff that is set up. Any other hard moves you want to talk about?
No, there was in the episode of many announced future badnesses, there was one that I thought was deftly handled, and that's Captain Lillywhite is just a name, right? We don't even see him on screen, but the characters talk about how Captain Lillywhite is on the beach rabble-rousing about how the centralized fence is a bad idea and they have to rise up against Queen Eleanor. And the other guy responds, he's always out there and he never has more than 3 people listening. And the announced future badness comes in and says, as the other guy says, yeah, and today he had 12. It's just, it's a nice little bit, yeah, there's escalating tension outside against Eleanor. But man, it was just drowned in so many other announced future badnesses that this whole episode is just a big pile of something's going to happen.
Yep, and a whole lot of tell you something's going to happen rather than something happening.
Yeah.
And then what did, all you do is take off the cook's leg. Wow. Awesome. All right, so let's move on to talk about the running part of Bsawr. And, yeah, you've got some good things to talk about, Josh. You did the Tinkerbell thing.
I did.
So tell me about this face with the naked skin.
I have no beard because for the Tinkerbell half marathon, we cosplayed because the Disney races you cosplay while running a half marathon. So my wife was Fairy Mary and I was Fairy Gary from the Tinkerbell movie series. which if you have daughter like I do, you know what that is. And if you don't have a daughter, you don't know what that is. And that's okay. But Fairy Gary has like these big mutton chops, and his chin is shaved. So I shaved my chin and had big mutton chops, and it looked absolutely terrible. So right after the race, I then shaved everything else off. And as you can see, it also looks pretty terrible. But I'll live. It grows back.
It's just hair.
But yeah, I did my second half marathon. That was pretty cool. I look forward to, thank you. I look forward to doing more. We're signed up to do the full marathon in January. And so the full-on training, escalating how long you are running, starts next month. So yeah, gearing up for that shortly.
Nice.
How
I am bad. I have been very bad. I took the week of Origins, which happened at the beginning of June. I took that entire week off of all things. So when I was at Camp Nerdly, which was middle of May, there was an entire day where I was without Wi-Fi. And even though I tracked my food on MyFitnessPal, and it looked like it updated, it had not actually updated for that entire 24-hour period, which broke my streak. I had tracked everything I had eaten for 1,635 consecutive days.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, that streak's broken. I'm going to start another one. And then I got to Origins, and I said, okay, for this week, I mean, I'm only up to like 15 days. Bump it. I'm not going to track my food. I'm going to be on a true vacation and then kind of hit it hard when I get back. I did the vacation. I have yet to hit it hard. So I'm back on tracking my food, and I've gone on one run in the last week. Went on a couple walks with my son, but it's been super hot, and I've wussed out a couple times. It's been 90 degrees. So I'm just going to have to adjust my running schedule to the bookends.
So yeah, running while hot, it's hard. I'm facing similar stuff. It's in the 80s. Luckily, it's nice and dry. So I just need to remember to take my water, and then I run. So that's what I'm doing. In Rich's absence, I'm going to say goodnight, folks.